All right, so our next section, section 2 of your final exam, is going to cover questions 9 through 15, which are all related to the narrative unit that we covered in class. So narrative writing techniques and that mentor text that we looked out, that we looked at called the Tryout. That's why I said out. So let's go ahead and dive in and we'll look at question number 9 through 15. And actually, before we look at those, we are going to read the text so that you know what these questions are asking you about. So I am going to read these questions to you, and then in the next recording, we will go over question number 9. Oh, Lord. Okay, so this is the tryout. This is an example personal narrative. We did cover this in class, you guys. So hopefully this will be review to all of you. This is that story about the baseball game. All right, so it says, a palpable enthusiasm saturated the air. Spring was approaching after a long, arduous winter, and baseball season would be beginning soon. Mom was adamant that I try out, insisting I needed to leave the house and make some friends here. Last week, I had skateboarded over to the neighborhood park from our new house to investigate where tryouts would be held. It was startling to see the verdant landscape. All that greenery was a drastic difference from the parched desert panoramas near our old house in Tucson. The new park had 2 basketball courts, tennis courts, a playground, a dog park, and an expansive field where a bunch of high school kids were playing football. I watched them for a while and then cruised around until I found a really cool skateboard area on the other side of the park, where a group of 10-year-olds were riding razor scooters. A few days later, Javi, my best friend from Tucson, emailed me. Tryouts for the Raiders were yesterday. Wish you'd have been there. Some of the new guys on the team aren't as experienced as we are. We sure need your fielding and pitching, and we'll get slammed by the Blackhawks this year. You trying out there? Man, that email really ramped up my homesickness. Last year, we beat the Blackhawks in almost every game we played against them, even on their turf. I'm not sure I even want to be on a team here since I don't know their stats and who they play against. What's the point? It's not like the challenge we had playing against the Blackhawks, and it definitely won't feel the same since I won't be playing with Javi. It'll be weird since I've been playing with him since we were 5 and we started out in T-ball. On the morning of tryouts, Mom drove me over to the park because I needed a parent to sign the consent form so I could play on the baseball league. I hoped Mom wouldn't say anything embarrassing like she did a few weeks ago when we were up at the Art History Museum. Out of nowhere, she struck up a conversation with this boy and tried to get set up a play date. I was mortified. Does she think I'm in second grade or something? And I'm sure the kid thought my mother was nuts or that there was something dreadfully wrong with me. I think mom's worried. I think mom is worried about my well-being because I haven't met anybody here yet. As the baseball coach reviewed our registration forms, I peered around the bleachers to see if anybody else looked as lonely as I felt. Everywhere I glanced, guys were joking with each other, smiling, laughing, and crafting plans. It made me miss my friends in Arizona even more. Um, I sure wished Javi and my other buddies, Nate and Brent, were here. Then a tight knot began materializing in my stomach and a major lump in my throat when I realized that it had been a year since I played baseball or even practiced, and that I was going to have to prove myself by demonstrating my skills, pitching, catching, and hitting, in front of all of these strangers. Coach Rossi divided us into 2 groups, like scrimmage teams, to assess each player's skills. Mine was the first up at bat. A tall, lanky kid with a shock of hair dripping into his eyes was the first batter, and when the pitcher threw a fastball, he pummeled it, sending the ball out into left field. He was as fast as the wind, blowing through the bases in a matter of seconds. Then it was my turn, and my mouth was as dry as the desert sand I missed, so I slurped the last of the cool liquid from my water bottle. Mom had stocked more in the cooler that she had lugged to the field, but regrettably, there was no time to guzzle another bottle now. The pitcher lobbed a slow ball to me. And under normal circumstances, I would have whacked it into outfield, but for some reason, I swung prematurely and hit nothing but air. Off to my right, behind the fence, a girl in black jeans and a fuchsia sweatshirt snickered at me. I smiled my brightest pearly smile and shrugged, but she tossed her long brown hair back and turned away, blowing a huge pink bubble. At the next pitch, I made contact with the ball and hit a foul. "Come on, Troy, focus," Coach Rossi said, clapping his hands. The next pitch was a fastball, and unnerved, I shut my eyes at the last second and swung, expecting the ball to fly past me. But the familiar crack of the bat against the ball made me pop my eyes open, just like my homers in Arizona. I grinned, and as the ball sailed past center field, I flew around the bases. When we were in the outfield, I took center field and caught most of the balls that came my way. I guess Coach Rossi thought I did really well because he asked me to pitch a few before the inning was up. By then, my confidence rebounded, and I zipped off my curveball. At the end of tryouts, the coach assigned the positions we'd play, and I was given center field and relief pitcher. To say I was stoked is an understatement. As I slugged down an icy cold bottle of water Mom had given me, the tall, lanky kid walked over. "Good pitching, man." "Thanks." It made me smile. "My dad's taking a couple of us out for pizza. Want to come along?" Mom consented, but first she wanted to get acquainted with everyone, and I was too pumped to be annoyed with her. She and Dad are like that. They want to know my friend's parents, or in this case, a potential friend. Mom reached out her hand and said, "I'm Mrs. Marino, and this is Troy. I'm Dustin Reynolds, but everybody calls me Dusty." "Nice to meet you, Dusty," Mom said. Then Dusty introduced Mom and me to his dad and the other boys who were going out for pizza. As it turned out, a couple of them had moved from other parts of the country to Boston within the last year or so, and Dusty was from Nevada, just one state away from where I grew up in Arizona. Everyone was pretty cool. After I got home, I went to email Javi about tryouts and saw a message from him. "We played against the Blackhawks today and lost. It was a pitiful game, man. I bet you made the team. They sure are lucky to have you." It's great being kept in the loop on stuff going on back home and to know that I'm not forgotten by my friends there. After I emailed Javi back, I hopped in the shower, and as I was getting dressed, I saw I had a voice message on my cell. Probably Javi calling to ask about tryouts and give me a play-by-play of the game. To my surprise, it was Dusty asking if I wanted to go skateboarding at the park the next day. Cool. Maybe I won't be nearly as lonely in Boston as I had imagined after all. All right, you guys, so go ahead and click to the next recording so that we can go over question number 9, which is our first question over the tryout.